Well, the weather is warming up, and so is the home buying season. Financial planner Travis Freeman is here to talk about ways to get your finances together. Good morning to you.
Morning, Chandra.
Okay, so what is the biggest mistake people make when it comes to buying a home for the first time?
So that's right. I'm going to talk about how anybody can buy their dream home. And the number one mistake I find everybody makes is that they don't consider all their long-term big financial goals when they're buying a home. So today's Easter, I nabbed my kid's Easter basket. Thought this would be appropriate. Let's say this represents your financial life. There's only so much you can fit in here. There are only so many eggs you can get in the basket. Otherwise, you press up against the walls. Now, everyone, let's say, has a car, healthcare costs, another car, maybe college for kids, they have retirement. There's a lot we need to put in here. And what happens is we end up buying way too much house. Then we try to work on the other goals. And guess what? Now you just pushed out college and retirement.
So that can make things a bit more complicated
That
for
is
you.
the number one mistake I find people make.
Okay, so what should people do to prepare for purchasing a home? What do you think is the best way to go about it?
Well, what you need to consider is that the other big goals should be the priority. What many people do is they buy the home, then think about college, retirement, etc. What you need to do is follow a very easy rule of thumb. Do not buy a home that is more than 2.5 times household income. So let's just say a family is bringing in $100,000. They should not buy a home that is more than $250,000 max. And that should allow you to have plenty of money to save for these other big goals that you have.
Oh, okay. So as far as what about people who are looking at maybe upgrading or just buying a bigger home or a better area or whatever?
Absolutely same thing. Because again, people don't think about the fact that the house can have an effect on retirement because it's so far away in the future. But what I have found professionally is that many people struggle to save for these other big financial goals, and it's because they have too much mortgage. They can't afford to put as much in their 401 or save for the college that they want. You put too much house into your basket. It pushed the other things out of the basket.
Now, the one thing I asked you about earlier was the fact of like many millions of other Americans have a lot of student loan debt. How does that roll into the factor of purchasing a home? How does it affect it?
Banks and lenders will take that into consideration. They'll sort of limit how much home you can afford to buy. But here's the thing. They may still approve you to buy a pretty big home relative to your budget. The bank does not have an ethical or moral obligation to care about your financial goals.
Right.
So don't just go after whatever the maximum amount they afford you, they approve you for is. Use that very easy rule of thumb. So the student loans will take an effect, but you'd be surprised how much they'll still approve you for.
Is there a rule of thumb too when it comes to how much savings maybe you should kind of have in the bank before you move into that whole big purchase?
Yeah, we're kind of getting into maybe the down payment there. There are some programs where you only have to put down 2.5%. I like to recommend 10 to 20% as a down payment. Personally, my wife and I didn't put down any more than 20%. In this nice low mortgage rate environment, I utilize the bank's money as much as I can because it's just so cheap now.
So the biggest lesson is at the end of the day is just make sure you don't buy too much home because you could end up in trouble down the line.
Oh, I find it all the time. People are so stressed because they can't save for college for 3 kids. They can't get to retirement. You bought too much house. So keep in mind in this home buying season how big your basket is and don't let it push out those other goals that you have. It happens all the time.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Freeman.
Thanks, Andrea.
All right, Kevin, I'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Some good stuff. Thank you, guys.